And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back because you wanted to hear more. Folks, that was a brilliant decision. Absolutely brilliant because we have a lot more for you. Why do we have a lot more for you? Because this is the podcast. It's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And our guest today, amongst other things, is wait for it, a podcaster. You cracked the code. You really are brilliant. This is the place where we all come together to raise each other up. And this is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's get sailing. Bring in our guest today. This wonderful lady who is with us today. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's a mentor. She's a podcast host. She is the author of Is Your Way in Your Way? And she's also the host of the podcast with the same name, Is Your Way in Your Way? Please welcome Cassandra Crawley Mayo to the show. Cassandra, how you doing today?
I am doing well, Rory. Thanks so much for inviting me to your podcast. I'm
Well,
looking forward to it.
thank you for coming. I really appreciate having you on. I really enjoyed your podcast when I was listening to it. Lots of
Thank
really
you.
neat elements that I'm a big fan of.
Mm.
Before we get into all that, though, tell everybody, who's Cassandra Crawley Mayo? What are you about? What got you into all this mess that we love to call podcasting?
Right. Well, actually, I was an individual that grew up, I would say, considering the end of the civil rights movement. I was fearless. I was naive, had no clue until it was time for me to get out into the world. And then I discovered, it's kind of strange out here. Never considered I would be going through these types of things. And I say that to say that I was always the first African American female to be in leadership roles. And I was naive to that until I received a call from one of the human resources manager from a large hotel industry. And he offered me the job. And when I said yes, his first response was, wow, I met my quota.
Ugh.
And when I heard that, like I said, I was naive. I wasn't quite sure really what that meant until I really got into the business. And what I did is when I did get into the business, I acted like it was my hotel. So I didn't have any problems because that's how I ran it. That was who I was. And then from that time forward, that's when I realized that the color of my skin was making a difference with so many different people. And for me, I was excited because I was doing what I had the skills to do. So that to me set me on a journey of being in corporate America for 30 plus years.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
I read a little bit about that in your bio. And do you feel like, I feel like, let me start with this. I'm going to speak from the first person. I feel
Okay,
like
good.
people today don't get what folks our age went through to
Mhm.
begin with. But I mean, you had a couple of additional things you had to deal with in terms of being African American and being a woman. They don't really understand what being a woman was like back when you and I were younger either. Do you find
Not
that
at all.
there's just a big lack of understanding about that kind of thing?
Some of it, I say, a lack of understanding, and that's how they grew up. That's what they heard. That was their experience. Rather than getting to know the person, they just blanketed. Nope, she can't do the job. She was hired because she was an African American. Plus, she was a female, so that's why they put her in these positions because they had to prove something. So I
Right.
really, really think a lot came how they grew up. That's their parents or guardian or whomever.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, as someone who's been through it, you can definitely speak from the first person on this. So,
Yeah,
you've earned that, and
yeah.
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Were you the type of person who kind of went out and sought that sort of advocacy, or did it sort of happen and you were in it, and so now you're dealing with it, that type of thing?
Yeah, great question. I would say in my career initially, I was fearless, not knowing a lot in regards to this civil rights thing. And the individuals that I worked with, the individuals I worked for, the clients that were mine, I was just fearless. I was like, it was like nothing could hold me back. And that was the mode that I was in. Not knowing that I needed to be careful with certain things, I just didn't. So I believe that me being fearless initially got me to where I am today. And then as time moved on, based on experiences, my fearlessness kind of went away. And that's kind of why I've discovered that I was in my way because of what I experienced. So it made things even more difficult for me as I grew and as I would say, was promoted in different organizations.
Interesting. And can you give us an example of how maybe you feel like you were in your way? Because I'm sure this translates into the book and the podcast in some capacity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had what you call, and many of us have, in internal barriers, external barriers, like procrastination. I'm not good enough. Imposter syndrome. Wow, look at me. Who am I? Who's gonna listen to me? And then, I got into the mode of comparing myself to social media. I'm like, wow, they're living a great life. And who today will advocate them living a bad life while they're online, right? So I
Right.
finally got that. And then as a result of me trying and working harder, I felt at a time in my life I needed to work harder just to prove myself. And initially I didn't do it. I was just me. And when I would be confronted by clients or my guests or employees, they like, I'll give you a great example. I remember one of the clients, oh, I would say guest, wanted to see the general manager because they were very upset. And when I walked out of my office and they saw me, the first thing she said was, "Oh, goodness, no wonder this hotel is running like it is."
Oh,
So there
wow.
were things like that. Well, you know how they say sticks and stones may break my bones? I used to
Yeah.
say that all the time, but words never harm. That was a lie. That hit me right in the heart. I'm like, oh, wow, why is that? Because of the color of my skin? So there were things like that occurred. And as a result of it, I find myself very strong, um, seasoned, and I'm now using my voice, which I wouldn't. I was very careful in the things I said, what I said, how I looked, what I wore, how I wore my hair. It was just so many gamuts because of who I was to others that I had to deal with.
Hmm. Wow. That fearless thing that you talk about was that derived more from necessity of having to be fearless if you were going to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish, or did that come from upbringing or faith? Where does that fearless thing come from? Because most of us aren't just born with it.
Yeah, well, it's my upbringing. I am a believer in God and Jesus Christ.
Amen.
That helped me a lot. My grandfather was a pastor, and as a young girl and an only child, the thing was people would say I was spoiled. So they're like, she got whatever she wanted, blah, blah, blah. And so I was just in a posture in the beginning of my career that nothing really harmed me. I was no fear. Even when I went to the hotel, I'm like, oh, I have this. This is my hotel. And that's how I worked. And as a result of that, and individuals could see that I had was great performance. I was rewarded for it. And and then as I indicated, as time moved on, I had more experience. That's when the fearlessness started going away. Like, ooh, I have this fear about getting up and speaking in front of people, or I have this fear of presenting, or I have this fear about meeting what I would call a C-suite executive, things of that nature. And
Mm,
that came with experience, personal experiences. So that's where that came from.
nice. That fear that comes back, is that imposter syndrome? Is that kind of that taking over, or was there more to it?
Yeah, you know what? It was imposter syndrome and it was comparing. It was comparison. I would look at, even though I would consider myself as a trailblazer for many of the positions I've been on, and I would look at individuals that would come on board and I would say, wow, they're really good. Or, oh, they're better than me. Then I started self-doubting my skills, like who I was. And I'm not. Now I know where it came from because that's why I am in a position that I am today because I'm not the only one that has been in their way. So, in comparison is it's the thief of joy.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's where that spiritual warfare comes into, that inner
Oh,
doubt,
yeah.
gnawing away at you.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I feel that. I really do. Now, these ideas that you came up with, the whole, is your way, in your way. This somehow culminates into a book and a podcast. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Um, the egg. The egg came first, and that was my book.
Ah, okay.
And I'll tell you why. I've always wanted to write a book. For 15 plus 20 years, that was my thing. I did a vision board. I was on the front page of a magazine. I was speaking, and this is something that I always wanted to do. And then I realized that not only was I not doing it, I was telling people so individuals would hold me accountable. And they would say, "Well, what's going on with the book, Cassandra?" I'm like, "Oh, it's coming." And then I also, and I can't share all of this because it's too much for the podcast, but there is a chapter in my book titled The Out of Body Experience. And based on that out of body experience I had at an airport, that was the trigger for me to say, is your way in your way? And think about how many people's way is in their way that's stopping them from doing what they're ordained to do. So
Hmm.
the book came first.
Interesting. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Again, back when you and I were growing up, it's writing a book had a sort of a level of prestige to it back in the day.
Mm.
I mean, it still does for sure,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
even more so, back then because we didn't have self-publishing, so it was a lot harder.
Right. That's
But
true.
was that part of it? Was sort of achieving that status, of being an author?
I never thought of it like that, Rory. My mindset was this was something I always wanted to do. And every year something would gnaw on me and say, "What's going on with the book?" And it would get on my nerves. And I would see it as God saying, what are you doing? I thought you were going to write this book. And I felt convicted. I mean, for
Hmm.
years. And I remember one year, I'm like, I'm so sick of this. I don't know what to do. And then when COVID came, all of a sudden, I made a decision. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write my book. And that's how it all started. And I always say, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear because I received a phone call from one of my friends that said, "Oh, I just had a coworker who finished writing her book and she had a ghostwriter to help her." And I'm like, "A ghostwriter? I can't nobody write my book like me." And I called her, and that's what started it. And so COVID, that's when I wrote my book.
Nice. I love it. I love it. And I love that's where that's coming from. That's really beautiful. The So you've got the book. You're putting that together. I mean, COVID did a lot of things for us. That
It did. It
made us
did.
look at ourselves in a very strong way in a lot of ways.
Yes, it
Um,
did.
what made you say, "All right, I've got this book. Now I'm going to go ahead and have my voice be heard on a podcast"? Because you were already speaking, right?
Yeah, I spoke for corporate,
Hmm.
always speaking, presenting, and, in these leadership roles. That's something I had to do.
Hmm.
Um, I, when I finished, I was so excited. And when I finished, I felt that I even grew more and I was in another level, I would say. And when, when I finished, I was like, "Okay, God, thank you so much. I am done. This is what I wanted to do. I did it and I'm done." Then here comes this nudge again. "Oh, no, you're not. When much is given, much is required." So that message in that book, you need to tell the world. You need to do something with it. I didn't give that to you for you to sit on it. And that was the start of my podcast. And in my podcast, I was afraid. I was fearful. And why I was fearful? Because I'm like, initially I was so low. I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to set it up? Like, I don't know if I could do this. And it took me a long time. I remember me having to like do training, and it would take me forever to do it because I'm a perfectionist, so everything had to be right. And the same thing with my podcast. And when I started, I was so fearful. I was fearful because I just couldn't imagine me talking to a screen and nobody's on the other side. And I struggled with that. And I struggled with that. And then someone said, well, why don't you put people on there? I'm like, really? Now that's going to be weird. What am I going to say? What am I going to ask them? And that's when I said, well, why not? Is your way in your way? So it's a podcast it's actually for women and it's about empowerment. My titles consist of self-improvement, reflection, is your way in your way, get out of your way, what's your purpose, and things of that nature. And the reason I did that, Rory, because I was in my way. I'm talking about things that I've experienced, and to find out, so have my guests. It may be different, but it's no different. I don't care what color they are, how old they are. It doesn't even matter. Many of us were in our way, and many of us now are moving forward and doing
Love
what
it.
we've always wanted to do.
I love that. I really do. Like I said, I got a chance to listen to your podcast, and I like the way you structure your episodes, and just, I mean, just your attitude through the whole thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
thanks.
it's really such an energy when you're when you're interviewing people. It's really great.
Thank you.
No, you're
Hmm.
welcome. But you do a good job. So the people you bring on, do they
Hmm.
come on knowing that this is like the topic, or are you looking for that in them? Kind of how do you qualify your guests to bring them on? We got to get a little podcasty
Yeah,
now. Talk about that. So,
yeah, yeah, I qualify them that they have to have had experiences. They didn't grow up with a silver spoon. No one gave them anything. They struggle like the majority of the world, and uh, and they've come through. And then there's some that have come through, but they're not done. They realize they're not done. And many of them have messages because they want to bless other people.
hmm,
Their story is given and told so other people can hear it. I always say the podcast that I've done, I'm so hopeful and prayerful that somebody will listen to that podcast and say, you know what? I'm going to pivot. I'm going to leave this bad relationship. I know it's not working out for me. I'm going to start my business. I'm even going to write a book, or just a gamut of things that they've been struggling with. Or I'm going to ask for forgiveness or anything that's going to mitigate those self-imposed barriers so they can move forward.
great mission. It really is. When you go into a podcast like that, and that's your mission, is to help as many people as you can, then you can't go wrong. So I'm glad to hear that,
Yeah,
and I love that. The folks who come on your show, one of the things I noticed about that was they all seem to be telling a story of overcoming adversity, things like that. There was some
yeah,
stories of abuse, and that kind of thing. And
yeah,
one lady, right when I first started listening to it, she was talking about how she, thought about committing suicide, and that kind of
yeah,
thing. So, I mean, you get pretty deep on your podcast
yeah,
talking to these folks. They
I
open
do.
up to
Yeah, yeah. That's the plan.
you.
That is the plan. And it's interesting. When I started, there were times when I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. Because it was a lot of work.
Hmm,
A solopreneur. I prepare. It's very important for me to prepare. I go through LinkedIn, I go through Google, I go through everything to learn about my guest. Um, and it's a lot of work. And then sometimes I'm like, well, nah, I think I'll keep going. And then when I keep going, I interview somebody that I am so energized. I mean, the conversation just goes so well. I want to tell the world. So that keeps me going. That's one of the things that keeps me going because I'm here to serve.
nice. The Now, are you able to use the podcast to sort of in synergy with the business of selling the book and promoting that? How do those two things go together in your world?
Well, initially, I worked on selling the book. And then after that, I got into the guest. I was more concerned about what they've been through, how they got through it. And and then, then all of a sudden something said, well, you have a message. And if you're interviewing guests, you will never ever tell your story because you feel like it's about them. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, well, is that being selfish? I would ask myself, is that being selfish? And then, so now I'm at a point after I've gotten over 100 episodes, now I will slide my book in. And then later on, I'll slide my business in. So it took me a while to, even though I heard if you want to sell your book, you need to be on podcasts and all of this and social media. And like I said, I'm solo. I was getting burned out.
Hmm.
So I realized I had to pivot and do some things differently.
Yeah. Okay. I get that for sure. The when you do your now you do solo episodes along with the interviews.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
When you're doing the solo episodes, do you go in there with a different type of theme ahead of time and you think, hey, I want to make sure I get this message out? Do you plan that ahead of time, or is this sort of like whatever's grabbing you at the moment and you're just letting, spirit flow through you type of thing?
Yeah, I actually do it ahead of time because I'm a recovering perfectionist, you see. And so everything has to be just right. Like I will talk about things like is your way in your way. I remember that was kind of my first solo episode and talked about what that meant. And then I'll go to chapters in my book about purpose, like what's your purpose. And then Roy, one time and I didn't get a lot of downloads. And now I'm at a point where I hope I don't. I started singing This Little Light of Mine. And I was singing my out. And, and my point of that song was I woke up with that in my head. And I'm like, what's strange? Now, because of the fear and the doubts that I have, I'm going to sing it to you, audience, so you can see that I'm just going to go for it and see what you think. And I was singing my heart out. And when I stopped, I said, now you are crazy. You know, and some people downloaded and others didn't. But I bet you as time moves on, that may go viral.
You never know.
It may. Yeah, no, it's so funny.
You
Wow.
never know.
No,
That is
no.
so fun. It's a great story. I had something similar to that with one of my students here recently. He plays guitar, and I said,
Oh,
"Listen, you need to put out an 11-minute episode. Just play your guitar."
right,
Yeah, and he goes,
right.
"Just play the guitar." I said,
Yeah,
"Play 3 songs on the guitar. It's more than 12 minutes. Put out an episode." He said,
yeah.
"Huh, okay." It's one of
Okay.
his best episodes
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That is
because it
amazing.
was
Yeah.
different, right? Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Do you feel like you're constrained in podcasting based on kind of what everybody else is doing? Do you feel like you need to conform, or are you keeping that trailblazing attitude in podcasting and saying, you know what, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it?
That's a great question. Since you mentioned it, I don't feel constrained. I feel energized. And what energizes me are the people my guests, they are some amazing people to talk with. And some of us have stayed in touch. I need to do more solos, I've been told. And now that's something I have to like, okay, I'm not there yet, even though I started with solos, but I want to represent the purpose of podcasts because they are big now. People are listening to podcasts.
Yeah,
And and when I started, it was like when I started in the hotel business, this is my hotel. I said, I'm going to be one of the top podcasters before this is all over. And that's my mindset. And I believe that. I don't know when, but I know it's going to happen. So that's the set. That's my goal. That's what I focus on. And I'm gonna have to hire some people then because I'm gonna have so much going on. Yeah,
right. Time to
yeah,
expand at that point. There you go. All right,
yeah.
wonderful. You mentioned social media a couple of times. When when you do go out on social media and you promote it, is there one that you favor over the other ones that you've had better results on? And is there one that you just have absolutely no use for?
Well, LinkedIn is for my business. They're more, I'm not saying other ones, they're not professionals, but these are more business people on my LinkedIn. And so I will actually focus on them, but all of my podcasts are shown on every social media platform, all of them. Uh, um, I liked Facebook because I knew how to do Facebook. And
Right.
also, social media and digital was new for me. I didn't grow up in that era, so I'm like, well, why do I do this? And I make mistakes, people probably don't even know. And then, then I get like when I wrote the book, you can imagine how many phone calls and emails I got, and they were scams. And I
Yeah.
didn't know what I didn't know. And I got duped by a couple people. And I'm like, nope, not giving any more money. I'm done.
Oh,
I'm just going to do what I do well and get better at it. Um, so and like I said, when I do my podcast, they just go out to everybody.
nice.
So yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm sorry to hear about getting duped. I
Oh,
understand that, and I've been there myself. So
oh my
it,
gosh.
once it happens to you once, and you get over how stupid we feel, right? Then,
Exactly. Exactly.
then you
And I'm gonna
never really
tell
look at
you,
it again.
mine was more than one time, so I'm real stupid.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
they've upped their game. You know what I
I
mean?
know.
They really have. So, um, I've heard you mention faith on the podcast a couple of times. It sounds like that's kind of a big thing in your life, if you don't mind me asking.
Not at all. That is huge. Based on all that I have gone through in my life, uh, that that was my foundation. Um, I prayed a lot. My knees are messed up. I'm hopeful that I don't need knee replacements because being on my knees praying. But that is the center of my life. And when I think about where I've been, the promotions I've gotten, I know the things I've done that I've never done. I know it's something bigger than me that's making it happen. That
Nice.
that I know. Yeah. So
Yeah.
strong.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you answering that question. Do you feel like you're sort of in your purpose doing the podcast and the book?
Yeah, I do, but my purpose is bigger. My purpose now is my business because not only do I touch people on podcasts, I don't know how many people, but I know I got 2,100 downloads the other day. I'm like, oh, that's good, But I like to use more of my speaking. I empower purpose-driven women who have limiting beliefs, not sure of their purpose, um, exhausted, burnout. I help them start living their best life on their terms because I know a lot of them don't do it. And if I ask them from a scale of 1 to 10, how are you in living your best life? Some of them look at me like, what are you talking about? Some of them say 10 right away, 10 being the highest, which I know they're lying. And it just gives them something to think about. And I
Right.
know that we're all here for a reason. And it's time for us to figure it out and move forward in our lives so that we won't have any regrets when it's time for us to go.
I love that. That's strong. That's really strong. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
The business, this is for lack of a better phrase, this is a coaching business that you do then yourself. Is it one-on-one?
Yeah, it's I have groups and I call it I'm a transformational mentor. And my signature is the Rise Journey. My logo is the Phoenix, and it's all about Rise Beyond Limits. And it's a 6-month program.
Nice.
And then at the end, they will be very clear on what it is they want to do, and they will launch it, and they will feel really good about waking up in the morning because they will have a reason why they're waking up in the morning.
Sounds incredible. Well, I love that you're doing that. That's great. Yeah, you're
Mhm.
out there in all aspects, just trying to
Yeah,
help other
absolutely.
women. That's
Yes.
amazing. Let me get back to a little podcast talk just for a minute.
Okay.
One of the things I ask all my guests, it's my corny question that I love to ask everybody,
Okay.
is when it comes to doing the podcast, What is it about that that you love the most? And what is it about that that you just absolutely can't stand, throw out the window, hate the most about doing your podcast?
Yeah. I love the people that I talked with. I love that. What I want to throw out of the window is getting there, having it edited, prepared, to publish all of that. I am not working in my genius when I take the time to do that because I'm doing admin work and that takes a lot of my time. And I just want to do it right. My thing is, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. So that's the part I do not like.
Gotcha. Well, you're in good company because if we did a Family Feud type thing and did top five answers on the board,
Yeah.
editing is like number
Oh,
one answer.
I know. Oh my gosh.
So,
Really?
about how much time do you think you spend editing each episode? I'm curious.
Well, I've learned to do my podcast on Tuesdays. Tuesdays are my podcast day.
Okay.
And I will see who I'm interviewing probably around Friday to make sure they have all that information in. And then probably Friday or Saturday, I will prepare. And then Monday, and I actually write out, I don't have scripts. That helps me remember when I write things about them, their titles, what's my outcome, what is it that we want to accomplish. And so I would say, uh, I would say sometimes altogether, it's been 8 hours.
People don't like
And
this question.
no, I know. And I tell you, as I've been doing, I'm getting a lot better. I'm kind of down to 3 hours and sometimes 4. And that to me is a pivotal moment because I recognize it was taking me forever to do them. And
Right.
now I'm like, I got this. And sometimes I just, I read about them and I don't even have to prepare what I'm going to say because I already know what I'm going to say based on what I read about.
I mean, hey, getting better, tomorrow than we are today is the biggest part of doing this, right?
That's
So I,
right.
I love that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Another great answer. All right. I have to ask everybody about this, even though I can't stand it. I have to ask everybody about it. So, how do you utilize Chat GPT and that type of thing in your podcast, or do you?
I do sometimes. Um, like I don't it's kind of like when I did my book, I didn't know anything about Chat GPT.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm glad I didn't, because I would not have really experienced what I experienced. Now, there's sometimes that an individual will have a huge bio. I'm like, what in the world is all of this? So I will use it to succinct the bio. And that's what I use it for because the bios are just too long. And it doesn't correspond with my mission. So I say, correspond with my mission. What can you get out of this bio to shorten it to keep the essence of what this person's all about?
Hmm. Okay. That's fair. I got you. Excellent. All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, we didn't have that back in the day,
Right.
that's for sure.
I know. Tell me
So
about
it
it.
was probably a good thing. I'm with you. All right. The now I've heard you say some things. It's almost as though you're sponsoring your own episode, the way I've heard you phrase some things. Have you had the
Yeah.
chance to monetize at all, or is that your plan to, promote yourself through
Hmm.
your podcast that way?
I have an accountability partner that's important to me, and we've been accountability partners for 4 years. And the last 2 years, one of my goals is to monetize. And at the end of the year, I'm like, I didn't monetize. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I'm not doing well at that, and that's something that I am struggling with. How do you monetize? Now that I got understand the fact that I'm doing it for others, but now I'm like, okay, what about me? All this hard work that I put in. What about me? So yeah, I'm looking to do that. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I have a Zoom call later on this evening. This girl is monetizing like crazy. I'm like, let me talk to her and see what she's doing. I like to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Well, I'm glad that it's on your mind. I mean, you have enough episodes for sure
Yeah.
to be out there. So, and based on what you're telling me about social media, I'm sure it's something that you could be getting into, in that aspect as well. So,
Yeah.
don't forget
Yeah.
that's a huge asset for you.
Yeah.
But no, that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. Okay. The All right. I love what you're doing with the podcast. Is there another book in the works? Is it more coaching? Is it continuing the podcast? Where does Cassandra see her future next steps?
I definitely have a book. I already know
There we
my
go.
title. I know what it's about. Um, that's the next step. My other next step is to be on more speaking platforms.
Mm,
And also have clients where I can make a major impact in their lives for individuals that are really struggling with their barriers and trying to do this and that, and they just are stuck and they can't do it.
nice. Nice. So, is there anything you could tell us about the next book? I mean, because I'm always looking for a scoop. That's always great to get on a program. You want to
Sure.
talk about
I
want to talk
will,
about that?
yeah, I will tell you the title of my book, and you listeners out there, you better not take it. I'm going to tell you right now, don't you
She
do it.
has spoken. That's it. Don't be
Yes,
taking it.
but your story won't be like mine. The title of my book is Life's Interruptions.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
we all have them. I want to talk about them, and I want to talk about what do you do about them, and let people know you're not alone. Um, you may be doing well today, but tomorrow, maybe not. So what are you going to do about it?
Interesting.
So, life's interruptions.
Nice. Now, is this working in conjunction at all with the coaching program?
Yeah, because my 6 month program is titled, the acronym is Rise Beyond Limits. And and the first thing is number one, individuals have to, okay, the I is the interrupt. That's RISC, and that's where the life's interruptions comes in because that kind of it kind of a lot of times it stops people from moving forward. And the R is for them to recognize what is interrupting them. What is stopping you? What are your barriers? What was your childhood like? Because a lot of that has a lot to do with your adulthood. What was going on back then that we can uncover why it is that you are stuck in this particular place?
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds like you've got a pretty good grip on what this book's going to be about. That's
Yeah, I
fantastic.
do. I
All right.
do.
Wonderful.
Yep. Yep.
Wonderful. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that coming out. That's good for you. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Something told
Thank you.
me that writing another book was going to be on your heart because the first one meant so much to you. So
Yeah.
that's
This is
excellent.
my last book, though. That's it. The next one coming, that's it.
Well, now, why would you say that?
I just feel it.
Oh,
I,
all right.
I never thought it'd be another book until it came upon me while I was doing my walk. And I'm like, there's the title. That's what it's going to be about. And that's it.
Nice. Nice. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you for sharing that on the program. And
Sure.
yeah, you know what? Even if somebody does steal the title, that's not going to be your book and your story, so it won't matter. No, you're good to go.
Absolutely.
You're good to go.
Absolutely.
No, you're good to
Right.
go. I see great things coming for you, lady. I can't wait to
Thank you.
see them
Thank you.
materialize. So,
Yeah.
um, before we wrap this up, and I appreciate everything you've shared in the program today for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, how do people reach you? What's the best contact information for you? Put that out there for everybody.
Sure. The best way to reach me is CassandraCrawley.com. I'm on all social medias except Reddit. I haven't figured Reddit out. I finally got on TikTok, and you just put Cassandra Crawley Mayo, and I just pop right up. I'm amazed how many times I pop up. And if they want to get in touch with me or send me a note, you can email me on Mayo at CassandraCrawley.com. And that contact information is also in my book. And of course, you can get my book from Amazon and everywhere books are sold. And it's on Audible, my voice, my story.
Oh, neat. You read your own.
I sure did.
Excellent. I
Yes, I
love that.
did.
I love that. It should come from your voice. It's your voice to
That's
begin with.
right.
That's
Exactly.
absolutely beautiful. All right, Cassandra, I got one more question for you. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right,
Yeah.
here we go. With You've put out over 160 episodes so far. I mean, you've passed several big milestones in the podcasting world. You've been doing this for a minute. You've learned a ton, I'm sure. You could not have gotten to 160 without learning
I
a
know.
ton. So,
Hmm.
what is your best piece of advice for podcasters who are out there who are just not quite where you are yet?
Hmm. My only advice is to understand your why. And a lot of people have heard this before. Why are you doing a podcast? Is it about you? I mean, what is it that you want to accomplish? What is it? How do you want to serve? And that keeps me focused. And also, don't stop and put a bunch in your bank so that you can. I'm going to tell you this. I have podcasts up till April. So they
Nice.
can just run on every week. They show live every Wednesday. And so that you can position yourself. So I'm going to take a couple weeks off around the holiday.
Good for you.
I just don't stop.
That's good for you. Yeah. I mean, if your podcast is up and running and it's fully loaded and you're all ready to go,
Yeah,
take a little time for you and then
yeah.
get back at it. Nice.
That's right. That's right.
Nice. All right. I absolutely love it. Folks, the author of Is Your Way in Your Way and the host of the podcast by the same name, Cassandra Crawley Mayo. Cassandra, it's been absolutely wonderful hearing from you and
Yeah,
hearing your
thank
story.
you.
Thank you so much for being on
Thank you,
today.
Rory. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Folks, this has been another just incredible episode of the Podcaster Nation. The reason we have such powerful podcasters come on here with these great messages is because this is the podcast. It's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And we showed you yet again today that this is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.